Hello, everyone. This is South Carolina Crime and History. Today's case is one that is probably incredibly familiar to those in South Carolina, especially the name of the perpetrator, Susan Smith. Before we divulge any further, we'd like to warn viewers that there are mentions of sexual abuse and other subjects that may be upsetting. Viewer discretion is advised. Susan Lee Smith's name is one that evokes horror, sorrow, and controversy in American criminal history. Born on September 26, 1971, in Union, South Carolina, Smith became infamous after she murdered her two young sons, Michael Daniel, 3, and Alexander Tyler, 1, in 1994. While the crime itself was deeply shocking, the circumstances that led to it, and the manipulative and tragic events that followed, have left a lasting impression on both the criminal justice system and public consciousness. Smith's early life was marked by trauma and emotional instability. When she was just 6 years old, her father died by suicide. This tragedy was followed by years of internal struggle, culminating in her own suicide attempt at age 13. The emotional scars from these early experiences were only deepened by sexual abuse at the hands of her stepfather, Beverly C. Russell, a respected local businessman and political figure who later gained prominence within the South Carolina Republican Party and the Christian Coalition. Both Russell and Smith admitted that the abuse continued into her adulthood, persisting until just months before the murders. Despite her traumatic upbringing, Smith managed to graduate from high school in 1989. Shortly thereafter, she again attempted suicide after a relationship with a married man ended. In 1991, she married David Smith, with whom she had 2 sons. The crime that shocked the nation began on October 25, 1994, when Susan Smith reported to police that she had been carjacked by an unidentified black man while driving her Mazda Protege. She claimed the carjacker had driven off with her children still in the back seat. Her tearful public pleas for their safe return dominated national headlines for 9 agonizing days. However, police quickly became suspicious. Smith's account of the carjacking began to unravel under scrutiny. A significant clue emerged when Smith described being stopped at a red light at an otherwise empty intersection. Investigators determined that the light could not have turned red unless another car had triggered the sensor, an inconsistency that pointed to her deception. Smith was also subjected to a polygraph test and failed. 1994. Smith confessed to driving her car into John D. Long Lake with her sons inside, allowing the vehicle to sink 122 feet from the shore, farther than initial search efforts had anticipated. Her stated motive was to secure a romantic relationship with Tom Findley, a local wealthy man who had recently ended their relationship, expressing in a letter that he did not want children. Smith denied acting with forethought, stating she was in a disturbed state of mind at the time and had intended to die with her children, but ultimately survived. The public reaction to Smith's confession was swift and harsh. Not only had she killed her children, but she had also fabricated a racially charged lie, blaming a black man for the fictitious carjacking, a falsehood that played on long-standing racial fears and tensions in America. In 1995, Susan Smith was tried for the murders of Michael and Alexander. Her defense team, led by attorneys David Bruck and Judy Clark, emphasized her history of depression, abuse, and emotional instability. Clark famously told the jury, "This is not a case about evil. This is a case about despair and sadness." The defense argued that Smith had driven to the lake intending to commit a murder-suicide, but ultimately could not go through with taking her own life. The prosecution, led by Tommy Pope, asserted that Smith had coldly and deliberately killed her children to pursue a relationship unburdened by motherhood. Despite Pope's impassioned plea for the death penalty, the jury voted against it. After only 2.5 hours of deliberation, they convicted Smith of 2 counts of murder. She was sentenced to 2 concurrent life sentences, with the possibility of parole after 30 years. Following her sentencing, Smith was incarcerated in the Administrative Segregation Unit at the Camille Griffin Graham Correctional Institution. In 2000, she was moved to the Leith Correctional Institution near Greenwood, South Carolina, after it was discovered that 2 correctional officers had engaged in sexual relationships with her, leading to criminal charges against both men. Smith remains incarcerated at Leith to this day. In November 2024, Smith became eligible for parole for the first time. Her request was denied, and it was reported that she reacted with a tantrum in her cell, an incident that many saw as reflective of her ongoing emotional instability and lack of remorse.